Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning and the Old Cookbook Show. Today we're going to do a full Indian feast from the late 1800s England. I have here two cookbooks, both called Class Cookery Recipes. This one is the 8th edition and this is the 10th edition. They were published, this one was published in 1902 and this one was published in 1906. The first edition is from the late 1880s, and the recipes are accredited to something that was done in 1886. So we can date the recipes to about 1886. And I'm going to do a meat curry and a vegetable curry, both from this cookbook. But I want to talk about this cookbook first. This is The Fine Art of Cookery by Hannah Glasse, first published in 1747. My copy is published in 1748, so a year later. This cookbook is the first cookbook published in the English language with a curry recipe in it. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. It is not a recipe that any of us in 2025, 2026, whenever you're watching this, would recognize as an Indian recipe, as a curry recipe, for that matter. Whereas by the time we get to here, curry in England has developed to the point where it's still Anglified. It's still English rather than Indian, but it is much closer to what we would recognize today in terms of flavor profile. So first we're going to do a Bengal curry, and I have cut this curry in half. Julie and I didn't need a curry made with 2 pounds of meat. Strangely, it says we can use chicken, veal, beef, or rabbit. Rabbit comes up a lot in curry recipes in this time period as a possible meat to use. Interesting that it doesn't say anything about using sheep or mutton or lamb or that sort of thing, and that beef and veal are included. Obviously, this is tailored to an English taste. So we're going to start out with butter. One of the things that's common in this time period is the use of butter and lots of it. Now I've got this on a pretty gentle heat, but I might go up one more, up to 4. And to this butter, we're supposed to add onions, just all sliced up. 1 cardamom, and so in goes the cardamom. A piece of cinnamon, in that goes. And some chopped up garlic, so in goes the garlic. And we're just supposed to sweat the onions down. We don't want to burn them, you don't want to get any color on them, you just want to sweat them down. So this is going to take a while. This is one of those things where don't rush it. You're always going to, if you're like me, you're going to get impatient. I get impatient, I crank up the heat, and then I ruin it. You got to let it go. You got to just let it go low and slow until the onions have given up most of their juice and they're almost translucent. Now, this recipe calls for curry paste and curry powder. At the beginning of this, there is a curry powder recipe given, but it has such huge amounts. 2 pounds of turmeric, 1/4 pound of garlic, 1.5 pounds of this, and 5 pounds of coriander seed. So, people doing this at home, they're not making that curry powder recipe. These books are for a cooking school, and the people who are using these books in the cooking school are learning how to cook to go on to the big country houses, Downton Abbey, cooking in not restaurant kitchens, but hotel kitchens, that sort of thing. It's called High Class Cookery, which in this book means that 90% of the recipes have a French name or are straight out French cooking. But it does say that when you're doing this at home, buy a commercially prepared curry powder and curry paste that you like. And certainly by the time this book is printed in 1906, the British marketplace is already awash in commercially available curry powders and curry pastes. Curry grabbed on really quickly, and it has never let go. Now, as for the recipe in The Art of Cookery from 1747, the recipe is called To Make a Curry the India Way. Take 2 fowls or rabbits, again with the rabbits, cut them into small pieces, and 3 or 4 small onions. And so this is the 1740s. You can see the use of the long S in this recipe. Well, that cinnamon smells really good. 30 peppercorns, a large spoonful of rice, brown some coriander seeds over the fire in a clean shovel, right? Beat them to powder, take a teaspoon of salt and mix all well together with the meat, put all together into a saucepan or stew pan with a pint of water, let it stew softly till the meat is enough, then put in a piece of fresh butter about as big as a walnut, shake it well together, and when it is smooth and of a fine thickness, dish it up and send it to the table. So, you know, there's some elements of a curry in there, but it doesn't hit all of the notes of flavor-wise. But yet, it takes off really quickly. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. And I'm sure that people will want to talk about it down in the comments section. These onions are looking pretty good. So we'll move on, and a little bit of salt, curry powder, curry paste, and the meat. And we'll just stir that all together. Now, once I've got this all mixed together, I'm supposed to put a lid on it and stick it into the oven. It does say, and this is where it does mention mutton, if you're using chicken or rabbit, an hour will be sufficient. If it's beef or mutton, 2 hours will not be too long. So, I've got the oven set fairly low, 275 degrees, maybe 300 or 350 would be better. I'm not sure. I'm thinking this is a kind of a low and slow braise. You don't want this to dry out because we didn't add any liquid other than what was in the paste and the butter. So there's not much going on in this pot. I think if you put it in at too high a heat, it'll dry out and it just won't be good. There is a case to be made to put in a little bit of water, or if you're using chicken, put in a little chicken stock. If you're using beef, a little bit of beef stock, just to keep it sort of loose. You definitely don't want it to dry out. So into the oven, and we'll let that go for a couple hours. Now the Bengal curry is going in the oven. It's almost ready. We're gonna make the vegetable curry. Doesn't take nearly as long. So we're gonna start out pretty much the same with a heap load of butter. In that goes and starts to melt. And while that's melting, I'm just gonna put in the onions right away. Get those going. Now I'm using butter because the recipe asks for me to use butter. We know today it probably would be ghee, which just to, you know, in the easiest way to describe ghee is it's clarified butter. It's just the oil, all the milk solids have been removed. And we're starting out with sauteing onions, which is a very classic way to begin a lot of Indian cooking. Julie and I spent 6 months in India, just riding around on the rails, had a really good time. And at one point, we ended up at Alang Beach, which is where they break up the ships. I wanted to do some photography there, and we got caught and removed from the beach, thrown off the beach. Ended up there's a town outside of the beach where other entrepreneurs go onto the boats first and salvage as much as they can, repair it so that they can sell it on. Met up with this family. They had a business where they dealt in giant, like massive valves. They refurbished the valves and then sold them back to shipping companies that needed replacements. They also had an onion farm, and we went to the onion farm, and they had this giant operation at the onion farm where they chopped and fried onions and sold them partially fried for home cooks to cut down on the frying time. I thought that was pretty amazing. Anyway, so for the vegetables in our vegetable curry, we have carrot, and I've got some red carrot from our own garden that we grew this summer. Turnip, and this is actual white turnip. It's one of these, not the big orange ones. That is a turnip. And potato. Now the recipe tells me that I'm supposed to boil these separately. So I've got a pot of water here that is just coming up to a boil. The onions are cooking nicely. Doesn't matter. You can boil them out of order if you want. So I'm going to put them in and start them cooking. I think the idea is that they need to be cooked mostly through before you put them into the sauce or the gravy. So in those go. Now, to address the people in the comment section who are probably already writing, this isn't authentic, this isn't an authentic curry, this isn't a real curry. In this time period, this was a real curry. This was a real English curry. And who's to say what is authentic? Because at the beginning here, they talk about hot peppers, and that, you know, you have to make sure that you don't get the peppers that are too hot. And what's very interesting about that to me is that hot peppers don't exist in Indian cooking at all until the Portuguese bring hot peppers to India. Hot peppers, any peppers, whether they're, you know, sweet bell peppers, any pepper, and I'm not talking peppercorns, I'm talking peppers like jalapenos and all of those things. Those are from here, Central and South America. The potatoes in this dish are from here, Central and South America. Tomatoes are from here, Central and South America. And it's the Portuguese that bring these to Indian cooking. So anytime you see hot peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, and a few other ingredients that, you know, we could go on and on and on, they don't exist in Indian cooking until the Portuguese bring them. And that would be in the mid to late 1600s. They get incorporated, the English find it, and then bring it back to Europe, which is kind of hilarious to me that there's this giant exchange. And that giant exchange happens across so many cultures in the 15 and 1600s as brand new foods were brought from the Americas back to Europe and to Asia. The face of cuisine and culture was completely changed by what is known as the Columbian Exchange. Okay, those onions are looking pretty good. A lot of butter in there. This is where I'm going to add in the curry powder, and it asks for some stock. And we'll stir that all together. Now this is supposed to boil together for about 5 minutes. We'll let that go. I'm also supposed to salt it at this point. And we need some lemon juice. So, only a teaspoonful, which isn't that much. So we'll just squeeze some out here and get about a teaspoon worth of lemon juice in there. That's good. Give it a stir. Now, I'm going to say the veg is cooked enough, so we'll take it over here to the sink and drain it. And we'll just set that aside until we need it. Now, I've never had turnip in a curry before. It's going to be an odd one for me. Okay, this says boiled for about 5 minutes, so in goes the veg. And don't forget the peas. Give that a stir. And turn down the temp. Now it says to cook this just long enough until the vegetables are heated through. I guess the assumption is that you did like I did. You boiled them ahead of time, and they've been sitting aside cooling. I'm not convinced about this one. The sauce is really thin. I'm not sure that the potato and that is gonna cook long enough in with the curry sauce, the gravy, to actually pick up a lot of flavor. I don't know that it's gonna thicken enough. I'm not so sure about this one. I am gonna put the lid on. So I've turned it right down. I'm gonna put the lid on and let that go for 5 or 10 minutes and go and check on the rice.
Ooh, Glenn, something smells pretty good.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends.
So I give you, we're going to curry like it's 1886.
All right. Ooh.
Interesting.
Smells good. It smells really sweet.
It takes like a half a stick of cinnamon.
That's what makes it smell sweet. It's that cinnamon equals sweet. It's like vanilla equals sweet.
Okay, let's plate that up.
Okay.
Okay, start out with a little bit of rice. A little bit of the Bengal curry. And a scoop of the veg curry. Huh.
That looks great. I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to try this one
I'm
first.
amazed the purple carrots didn't bleed everywhere.
Oh. That one's quite nice. I think it would be nicer with a little bit more gravy. But the flavor is kind of nice. You know, fully the flavor comes from the curry powder and the curry paste that you use, right?
I made a mess there. So those are lovely. They don't have they have just a hint of flavor other than the flavor of the vegetables themselves, which I think is kind of lovely.
It's very light, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is not going to, you would not walk up to this and say, oh, did you get it from the curry house down the street in 2025, 2026? This is definitely a very lighter version of what a curry is. It's quite nice. So you can't approach this with a mindset of today. You have to kind of
Enjoy it for what it is.
for what it is. Yes, this is quite nice.
And
I would like maybe a little bit more sauce.
I like how many vegetables are in this particular dish.
That is a lot of vegetables. Now I know that someone's already typing down below that the first curry recipe in an English cookbook is not in this cookbook from 1748 or 1747. That there is an earlier cookbook from 1380 or 1390 called The Form of Curry.
We don't have a copy of that though. So
Curry in that case is spelled differently. The two words curry and curry are not related other than they talk about food. In the earlier version, curry just means cook, how to cook, the form of curry.
Oh,
how
that's
to
funny.
cook. Whereas curry in this instance with two R's comes from an Indian word kari, K-A-R-I, which in typical English fashion, someone misheard, added to the English vocabulary, bastardized it, changed the spelling, changed the pronunciation, and that's how English works. Which doesn't change this meal. I'm going to enjoy this.
yes.
Thank you very much for stopping by. See you again soon.